It is a practice court in Washington, D.C., just a few days before the Mubadala CDDC Open begins. There are no packed grandstands, no television cameras following every shot, just two players warming up beneath the summer sun. On one side of the net is Venus Williams, 7 Grand Slam singles titles, 14 Grand Slam doubles titles, 4 Olympic gold medals, more than 3 decades on the professional tour. At 46 years old, she is still competing, still studying opponents, still chasing victories. On the other side is Alex Eala, 21 years old, a left-hander from the Philippines, fresh off the biggest season of her career. She has just broken into the world's top 30 only weeks earlier. She stunned Wimbledon by defeating defending champion Iga Swiatek on center court before making the deepest Grand Slam run ever by a Filipino singles player. At first glance, the story almost writes itself. A tennis legend taking a rising star under her wings. Experience meeting youth. One generation passing the torch to the next. It's the kind of story fans love. It's inspiring, it's emotional, and it might not be true, because Venus Williams has spent more than 30 years inside professional tennis. She has shared locker rooms with hundreds of players, won doubles titles with some of the greatest names the sport has ever produced. If she wanted an experienced doubles specialist, she had options. If she wanted an American partner, she had options. If she wanted someone with decades of tour experience, she had options. So why Alex Eala? Why choose a player than 21 years younger? A player still building her career. A player who, until recently, most tennis fans outside the Philippines barely knew. Was it simply because of Wimbledon? Because the whole world had finally discovered her? Or had Venus seen something much earlier? Something the rest of us missed? That's the question at the heart of this story. Because great champions rarely make important decisions by accident. They notice details others overlook. They recognize qualities that statistics can't always explain. Sometimes, they see greatness before the rankings do. To understand why Venus Williams stood beside Alex Eala in Washington, we have to go back to a match that most people have already forgotten. It wasn't played at Wimbledon, it wasn't played in Miami, and it wasn't surrounded by global headlines. It took place months earlier, in Auckland, New Zealand, long before this partnership ever existed, long before anyone imagined they would stand on the same side of the net. That day, Venus Williams wasn't Alex Eala's partner, she was her opponent. And what happened in Auckland may explain everything that followed. If you ask most tennis fans when Venus Williams first noticed Alex Eala, the answer is usually the same: Miami or Wimbledon. Those tournaments made Alex famous. But they probably weren't the first time Venus truly saw what she could do. To find that moment, we have to go back to January 2026, the ASB Classic in Auckland. It wasn't center court. There were no global headlines. Just a first-round doubles match that most people quickly forgot. On one side of the net stood Venus Williams and Alina Svitolina. Between them were multiple Grand Slam titles, Olympic medals, and decades of experience at the highest level. Across from them were two young players, Alex Eala and Iva Jovic. They weren't expected to win. On paper, experience alone favored Venus and Svitolina, but tennis isn't played on paper. From the opening points, Alex looked completely comfortable. She wasn't overwhelmed by Venus's reputation. She wasn't intimidated by Svitolina's consistency. She simply played her game. The first set went to a tense tiebreak. It could have gone either way. Instead, Eala and Jovic held their nerve and won it. Then came something even more surprising. The second set wasn't close. The young pair took complete control, winning 6-1 and sending two of the sport's biggest names out of the tournament in straight sets. Afterwards, Alex spoke with the respect you'd expect from someone facing one of her childhood idols. She praised Venus. She spoke about how much the opportunity meant, but respect doesn't change the result. Venus had just experienced Alex Eala's game from the opposite side of the net. She had seen the left-handed angles, the aggressive returns, the composure under pressure. Most importantly, she had seen a young player who didn't shrink when the match became tense. That matters because there's a difference between admiration and competitive respect. Admiration is given freely. Competitive respect has to be earned. Champions don't choose doubles partners because they feel sorry for someone. They choose players who can help them win. We can't say one match alone convinced Venus to partner with Alex. The two have never publicly said that, but Auckland gave Venus something far more valuable than rankings or highlight videos. It gave her first-hand experience. She didn't have to imagine what Alex could do. She had already played against her. Then, over the next few months, the rest of the tennis world saw exactly what Venus had already experienced. At the Miami Open, Alex stunned former Grand Slam champions Jelena Ostapenko and Madison Keys before defeating world number 2 Iga Swiatek in one of the biggest upsets of the season. She reached the semifinals and became the first Filipino player to break into the WTA Top 100. Suddenly, what happened in Auckland no longer looked like an isolated result. It looked like an early warning. The question was no longer whether Alex Eala belonged on the biggest stages. The question became, had Venus Williams recognized it before everyone else? One victory can surprise people. 2 victories create headlines, but only consistency changes opinions. If Auckland had been the only time Alex Eala impressed Venus Williams, it might have been remembered as a good day for a talented young player. Instead, the months that followed kept proving the same point. She had reached the semifinals and become the first Filipino player to break into the WTA Top 100. The rest of the tennis world was finally seeing what Venus had already experienced from across the net. Then came the grass court season. In Birmingham, Alex captured the biggest grass court title of her career, proving Miami wasn't just a hard court success. A week later, she arrived in Berlin. Waiting for her was former Wimbledon champion Elena Rybakina, one of the most dangerous players on grass. Alex defeated her. Then she followed it by beating Elena Svitolina to reach the semifinals. She was no longer producing isolated upsets. She was building a pattern. That pattern continued at Wimbledon, entering the tournament as the first Filipino player ever to be seeded in a Grand Slam singles draw. Alex defeated defending champion Iga Swiatek for a second time that season before reaching the 4th round. Soon after, she climbed into the world's top 30. For a player who had once been viewed as a promising junior, she had become one of the fastest rising stars on the WTA Tour. Looking back, Auckland feels very different. It no longer looks like a surprise victory over Venus Williams. It looks like the first chapter of a much bigger story. Every tournament seemed to confirm the same conclusion. Venus hadn't chosen Alex because of potential alone. She had chosen a player who kept proving she belonged among the very best. And that raises one final question. What exactly did Venus Williams see in Alex Eala that made her believe before almost everyone else? By now, one thing is clear. Venus Williams didn't choose Alex Eala because she was a good story. She chose her because of what she saw on the court. So, what exactly did she see? First, Alex plays left-handed. That changes everything. Most players spend the season facing right-handed opponents. A left-hander forces different angles, different serves, and different patterns. Those small adjustments become even more valuable in doubles, where one unexpected return can decide an entire point. But being left-handed alone isn't enough. What separates Alex is how she competes against Venus in Auckland, against Swiatek in Miami, against Rybakina in Berlin. She never looked intimidated. She played the opponent, not the reputation. That kind of mentality can't be measured by rankings. Champions notice it immediately. They know which players stay calm when the pressure rises, which players trust their shots in a tiebreak, which players continue attacking instead of protecting a lead. Those qualities don't always appear on a statistics sheet, but they decide matches. Alex also brings something every experienced doubles player values: speed, quick reactions, aggressive returning, the ability to cover the baseline while allowing her partner to attack at the net. For someone like Venus, whose greatest strengths have always included her positioning and net play, those qualities make perfect sense in a doubles partnership. Their games don't compete with each other. They complement each other. Perhaps that's why great champions often recognize talent before the rankings do. The public waits for numbers. Players trust experience. Before Alex reached the top 30, before Wimbledon, before millions of fans knew her name, Venus Williams had already faced her across the net. She had already experienced what Alex Eala could do under pressure. Looking back, the practice court in Washington tells a very different story. It wasn't a legend giving a young player a chance. It wasn't charity. It wasn't a publicity moment. It was 2 competitors who believed they could help each other win. One brought more than 30 years of experience. The other brought the hunger of a player proving she belonged among the world's best. And perhaps that's the real reason this partnership captured so much attention. Because before Venus Williams chose Alex Eala earned her respect. Not through headlines, not through rankings, but in the only place that truly matters to champions: across the net.